Well, we're just approaching the noon hour as we're populating our noon call today. So uh, welcome to our Henderson Chamber of Commerce membership as you all start to come online. Thank you for joining us this afternoon now. So um, as you know, we're very pleased and excited to have Mayor Debra March join us today. Mayor, would you like to say hello?
Well, thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be able to join you and the board and the chamber members, as well as folks across the city of Henderson. I'm delighted to be here and to talk to you a little bit about what's happening here in our city. And we're also fortunate today to have a few members from the city of Henderson available on the call who are really some of our best and brightest. We have Ryan Turner, who heads up our emergency management division, who has been really at the point of the spear on this pandemic recovery and actions that we've been involved with. And then of course, Michael Cathcart, who heads up business licenses with us. And Michael can probably weigh in a little bit stronger about what we're going to be doing to make sure that we are reaching all of the businesses in our community. And I know that they've already started their outreach into the community now to make sure we talk to all the businesses and restaurants that will be impacted. And finally, Derek Armstrong will be with us as well. And Derek is our Economic Development Director, and he can speak to some of the specific things that we've been working on as a community to help the businesses to succeed and to get back into business and to recover from this pandemic.
Well, it's all much appreciated, and we certainly appreciate you as our mayor, always proving accessible to our business community. And for joining us again today, Mayor. I'd also like to welcome to the panel John Ramus, who is the chair of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce with Dermody Properties. John, how is it there in front of the Bellagio today?
It's a little sunny, but the clouds are giving me a little bit of shade every once in a while, but certainly taking advantage of the scenery here. So
lovely down there.
Well, thank you, Scott, and thank you, Mayor March, for participating in our program and being accessible to our business community in these challenging times. I also want to welcome our many virtual attending members. Someday, very soon, we look forward to once again being in the same room together. As an 1,800 member organization, the Henderson Chamber always appreciates the strong working relationship we share with the city of Henderson. Our collaborative relationship has been especially evident over the past 60 days and will be a crucial partnership as our economy begins to move forward and recover. Now more than ever, the Chamber and the city need to continue to work together and provide the resources to sustain a healthy platform for our business community as we collectively move into phase 1 and beyond as quickly as possible. So with that, I'll turn the program back over to Scott and certainly look forward to the dialogue. Thank you again, Mayor, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. As you exit, you can contemplate whether to start with your virtual salad. Your virtual chamber chicken will be coming out shortly, though. So, all right.
Good. Looking forward.
Okay. Well, wow, Mayor March. I mean, just 60 days ago, we were in such a different place. We were coming off a very dynamic state of the city presentation. We were talking about all the great projects going on and still are. We have so many great construction partners and developers. Specifically want to thank Arno Construction as a sponsor today and board member Chetto Pikins. But everyone was building and everything was booming and we were kind of on cruise control. And then this virus, the pandemic hits. And so maybe you could speak a bit to sort of this moment in time, and it's really a moment in history as far as our state and country go for that matter.
It really is. I was reflecting back on our State of the City in February and all of the exciting things that are going on across the city of Henderson. And then here we are today. In early March, we were focused on the city's continued work in development and and diversifying the economy and the redevelopment of Water Street, and many exciting projects that were going on there. We, as a city, were planning on gearing up our parks and recreation programs to be ready for a season full of baseball and other activities. And of course, we were planning for the parade on Water Street. It was the St. Patrick's Day parade and the heritage events. And I think the first event that we had to cancel actually was the St. Patrick's Day parade, which is a huge event on Water Street. And I know we had a little bit of pushback about that, but it was important that we not put people on the street. And I'm grateful that we didn't have those 50, 60,000 people in one place now, looking back. So today, we have only essential workers in the city facilities. Everyone else in the city is either telecommuting or on some type of leave. And in fact, we actually have 900 employees who are telecommuting into the city right now. And that was one of the exciting things that I saw that we stood up in the Emergency Operations Center right away, was getting the licenses so folks could work from home so that we could continue to provide services. Maybe folks couldn't come in and get permits at City Hall at the counter, but they could do it virtually online. So we've tried to make those services available and to be responsive and actually nimble, because I think our plan actually was to try to incorporate those services probably a year out, but we went ahead and expedited the process and actually brought people online and have been much more efficient with providing those services. We're also looking within the city at how we reopen, making sure that we're also protecting our vulnerable populations in the city and ensuring that we're practicing social distancing. And when City Hall opens, it won't be mandatory to wear a mask, but we're certainly encouraging folks to come in and wear masks. So we activated our Emergency Operations Center on March 15th. And since that time, we've been working on a number of strategic initiatives. And one of the things that I like to share is that we actually began with the end in mind, so that while we started the emergency operations, we're also focused on what we have to do to recover and how we get our community back up and running as well. And one of the important initiatives that the governor saw to keep open and he deemed as an essential service was construction. And so we've worked closely with the construction industry. We've supported development and construction throughout this pandemic and have provided permits and inspections and things like that through virtual exercises. And we know that this is a difficult time for our community, but we remain Henderson strong and very committed as a community working together to that end.
Well, thank you for that. It has certainly shown, and I think we're going to get to sort of the preparedness and how ready the city was for this to become much worse than it was. So, but it was definitely a collaborative approach. I know the chamber, our business community, everyone involved has appreciated the passing of information back and forth. And a key part of that, I would applaud. You had mentioned Derek Armstrong, the Director of Tourism and Economic Development for the city. And Derek, very early on, the city reached out and set up these daily COVID-19 updates that we all participated in. And we would maybe have 40 or 50 leaders from the community on those calls. But Derek did a great job hosting those. And I think we were going to welcome Derek up to the screen here to talk a little bit about the EOC and those calls and how all that went, because it was very much appreciated by all of the business community. Derek, are you there?
Derek did a brilliant job really working with us, and will continue to do so, because obviously we're still in recovery and we need to look at finding solutions, whether it's working with our congressional delegation, whether it's working with the business community members and the Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, you guys have led such an important, or had such an important role in leadership. I know working even with the governor's office to help address these challenges. And basically, we're all in this together. And I know Derek has done a yeoman's job. He's been brilliant in working with the city. We're glad that we stole him away from the state of Nevada. So, Derek. I can't hear you. Volume? Oh. Is your mute button on? No?
Well, I think as we get that signal sorted out there, I will say that, Derek, we had everyone from the various hospitals that would join on the call. We had different members of the council that would impart information out to the business community. And it was, again, it's just a collaboration, which is a theme that we found throughout our great state over this pandemic period. And we can come back to talk EOC if we do not have your sound corrected yet there, Derek. So, okay, we're working on that.
There's a lot of things that we were able to do through the work of the recovery team that Michael Tassi chaired, but Derek certainly was a big part of that outreach. And, they gave input and information to businesses about code enforcement guidelines, whether it was essential or non-essential businesses. They looked at providing guidance as the restrictions were being loosened. I know they invited guest speakers in, like Bank of Nevada, who talked about the Paycheck Protection Program. And I know when I sat in on one of the sessions, I heard from a number of businesses, some of the challenges that they were facing. In fact, talking to some of the gaming folks, the small gaming properties, we recognized that they weren't receiving the kind of financial support that they needed. And we were able to work with our delegation in Washington to help them to get some resources, and worked with our lobbyists as well to make sure that we were providing them with the resources that they need. And I know we had weekly, bi-weekly meetings and conversations with the hospitals to monitor their progress, to look at the challenges that they might be having, whether it's PPE equipment or seeing what other challenges that they might be looking at, whether how they were addressing the medical surge and things like that. So the work that Derek did was really pretty incredible, and kept people connected with one another. And I think that during these challenging times, it was nice to have that continued connectedness, like we are right now, frankly, to be able to talk to one another and provide people with updates. People like to be informed. So I think that's really critical. This is a time of uncertainty, and having the ability to interact is so critical. So I don't know if Derek is back with us or.
Hi, Derek.
No, I just wanted to give it one more shot.
Okay, sorry, it doesn't look like we're gonna get the volume going there, so that's okay. It was good to see you though. So we've been working a lot together over the past few weeks. So Mayor, before maybe we move on to talking a little bit more about kind of the advocacy work that's gone on statewide, I think you have some good news. I think you can call it good news from the county commission meeting, which is going on as we speak. What has developed there?
Yeah, the county commission just concluded, and they voted unanimously not to add any new restrictions on the guidelines that were provided by Governor Sisolak's roadmap to recovery for Nevada phase 1. And so I know Henderson actually weighed in to the conversation, and we shared that we supported the decision going forward to be consistent with Governor Sisolak's guidelines, and that we also wanted to make sure that we were looking at and had the nimbleness to be able to respond should any circumstances change in the health, safety, and welfare of the community, to be able to come back to safeguard our community and their residents. But at this point, we're encouraged that businesses are going to be allowed to open up in phase 1, but obviously we encourage distance separation and masks when folks are out in public, and practicing whatever safety precautions, washing your hands and making sure you aren't touching your face. And that's a little challenging when you're wearing a mask, but it's important to do.
It's challenging. I don't think we all realized how much we actually touched our faces anyway. So in these times, it is of paramount importance. I think, as we look as well as what's gone on over the past 6 to 8 weeks, it's been Henderson and the chamber and the community. It's also been a very regional and statewide effort. The Henderson Chamber of Commerce and our government affairs team, especially, I would thank Amber Stidham for leading a lot of the work. We've been a very active part in the Business Information Network. and would applaud as well the work of Betsy Fretwell at Switch, who's just done a great job in sort of bringing all these diverse interests together so that we're sharing information, advocacy, and policy points back and forth. So that's been a
rock
big
star, by
plus.
the way.
So, oh, indeed. And so we appreciate Switch. They were also a sponsor of our program today. And they did a great thing as well in launching the Switch to Kindness program, which was actually launched in unison with our friends at the Vegas Chamber, as well as the Las Vegas Metro Police Department Foundation, whereby gift cards are being provided to first responders purchased through local businesses. So that program's going on right now currently. And then we've also had other great community partners that are doing good things for both the community and their workforces, especially on the front lines. I think Republic Services is a good example of that. They are also, again, a sponsor of our program today. We appreciate their support. But they have 28,000 frontline employees that are continuing to do good work in our community. And Republic Services has recently launched the Committed to Serve, which is a $20 million initiative to work with all their frontline employees who are serving the customers every day. So thank you to Republic. So Mayor, let's pivot over to a challenging conversation, I think, about budget, if you will. And this was something that, we did take a number of questions from our members as we were developing the program. A lot of them had to worry to do about budget and the impacts to the city. We saw that the city of Las Vegas was anticipating 147 million budget shortfall. They announced that yesterday, and they were being allotted 119 million from CARES, is what I understood. Could you maybe speak a little bit to how Henderson has been positioned in this process and what you see as the challenges going forward?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And as you know, the city of Henderson is not eligible for the CARES currently. Cities under 500,000 people or counties under 500,000 are not eligible for those resources under the current legislation. We've had conversations with the county and had conversations with the state, and our hope is that we will receive resources perhaps through either one of those entities. We also are talking to our federal delegation to look at the possibility of another CARES bill that will come through that will allow us to have resources delivered to municipalities under 500,000. And we provide a lot of direct services to the community to keep the community safe. A huge priority for us is actually public safety, and whether that's police or fire. In fact, 56% of our budget actually is directed to police and fire and emergency response to protect our public, and that's very important to us. We are working closely with those agencies, though, to try to access those resources. There's also other funding sources that we're exploring, and that includes FEMA, but FEMA requires a 75-25 split. So the things that we've done thus far, we could submit the bill, we would have to come up with a 25% match, and they would potentially reimburse us at 75%. In addition, as I said, we're working with our federal delegation. Obviously, the biggest loss isn't in the area of expenditures, but actually in the loss of revenue to municipalities. And one thing that I think I can lay as a foundation is that Henderson has been very, very fiscally prudent. We've made a lot of decisions over the years to make sure that we're sound in our fiscal practices. We have a AA+ bond rating, one of the best bond ratings in the state. We actually have one of the leanest local governments. We have 6.7 employees per thousand. I think the county and the city of Las Vegas are probably upwards of like 9 per thousand. So as they're making cuts, we have already been operating at a very lean place. So we aren't looking at the same level of cuts that they are looking at. And for the current fiscal year, we're expecting to have a loss of over 53 million in revenue in the general fund account. Fortunately, we have a history of strong fiscal management in our city, and we've been conservative and that's left us in a position, I think, that's a little better than maybe some of the other cities. the city started the year with an unassigned general fund balance of 31.4 million and maintains another 23.4 million in our financial stabilization fund. So that puts us in a little bit better position for this coming year. Obviously, we need to see how we move forward to ensure that we're generating revenues. You know, the consolidated tax revenues actually comprise, I think, 41% of the revenue that comes to our community. And that's largely sales tax or taxes also from the strip properties. And so looking at what happens over the next year and seeing those properties come up, and whether it's restaurants that can only currently operate at 50%, you know, we have to look at how those revenues are generating. And certainly we're looking at how businesses, gaming, the strip reopen, and what that will have in terms of an impact for us in the next 18 to 24 months. So we're working closely with the community and monitoring the tax revenues to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of our community. And, you know, one of our strategic priorities besides public safety has been fiscal resiliency. So we're very committed to monitoring and working with our bargaining units. In fact, we've have a great relationship with our bargaining units and have been negotiating agreements with them to ensure that we're protecting the city going forward.
Well, that's good to hear. I know that that's always been an important relationship with the on those bargaining agreements, especially as when we're looking at times ahead that we are looking at. So the city's anticipating about a $50 million shortfall, and that's over the current budget year, right? And that's ending in June. So that's how sudden this has really been.
So it'll be for the next fiscal year.
Well, hopefully the return back to the economy, and I think it does point to, you know, having the strip closed down has such a profound impact. It's not just Las Vegas, it is Henderson, it's every corner of the state that is really financially impacted by what's going on there now. So
certainly we want to see businesses reopen, but we want to make sure that we do it in a way that's safe and that our public is protected. And we don't want to see numbers going up, right? We want to see the numbers stabilized.
We do not. So maybe as we continue along the discussion about licensing and city operations, I know we have Mike Cathcart on the line. He's one of the operations managers with the city and does a lot of work in the arena of licensing. And Mike, I'm going to hope that we get a better success on your microphone than we had with Derek. Can you hear us okay?
Michael? Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, I heard from Mike this morning, and he was talking about how he and his team were actually going out into the community starting this morning to make sure that they were reaching all of the businesses and all of the restaurants that might be impacted, to give them an information sheet and to give them the tools that they need to make sure that as they reopen, that they were reopening in a sound way. Can you hear us, Michael? We can't hear you. Is there some way we can get sound for Michael?
Yeah.
He's unmuted here. I think it has to do with his computer.
Are you on mute, Michael? Can you click the mute button on the? No.
Well, I think, Mike, as we've gone through all of these daily licensing calls, and the city has been, working very hard with the business community on the reach out as to everything that's gone on. And as we prepare for phase one, which, starts at 12:01 tomorrow. So we know that, from an enforcement standpoint, that the county is in turn looking to the city to, be the boots on the ground, if you will, from an enforcement standpoint. And Mayor, when I was reading through the plan.
Oh, here's
Michael.
Michael.
I did a system change, and looks like we got things fixed.
Awesome.
How is everyone? I just want to tell you that my staff was very excited this morning when they got here to work. We, all the bad news over the last couple of months and being out there working with businesses, they were very excited to be out and share some good news. So we have 5 people that are out in the field right now. They are delivering information to businesses. And today we're really focusing on retail and restaurants where we can. We're dropping off the roadmap to recovery, a printed copy for each one of those businesses. We're taking information out from the Southern Nevada Health District. They have a reopening plan. We printed copies of that and are trying to get that to as many businesses as possible. And we also produce some flyers here internally, some really easy to understand, reopening the economy. We made one of those each for a separate one for restaurants, one for retail, and one for barbershops and nail salons. So we're going to be focusing on the barbershops, hair salons, and nail salons tomorrow morning. We were afraid many of them wouldn't be in the office today because they don't have the ability to open until tomorrow. So we'll be out to see them tomorrow morning. As far as the information that came out in the roadmap, I think the one big difference, if any of the managers from the big box stores, talking Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, if those folks are on this call, that is a pretty significant change that the governor made, in that 50% of the occupancy of those buildings is what the new standard is. We really had not been talking about that as far as grocery stores and Walmart. Some had done it on their own. I believe Costco had done that on their own and was only allowing 50% of capacity in their building. But it is now part of the roadmap of recovery from the governor.
Michael, how will enforcement work if there's issues that come up, or if you see numbers that are increasing? How will you be working enforcement in your team?
For this first couple days, obviously everything will just be a verbal warning. We're going out to educate. We want to make sure that people understand what they should be doing. So again, if we run into some issues where we're seeing that the buildings are over-occupied, we will just go out and we'll have a discussion with the managers. We'll take them another copy of the roadmap and explain where we're coming from, that we're only the messenger from the governor's office. We're just relaying what he has asked us to relay to the business community.
Mm-hmm. And if they make wise decisions, then they get to remain in business, right? If we're all doing the things that are necessary to keep the public safe and to have them be successful in business, we all win.
Absolutely, and that's what we're here for. I mean, we want to make sure that we don't break any of these protocols that the governor put in place, because we want to stay open. We want to, go through the next 14-day period, and hopefully we'll get to open up more of the economy.
And I think, so brick and mortar retail is in my blood. Having, managed the gallery at Sunset for 8 years. But I think a lot of people, the 50% capacity is significant because a lot of retailers don't achieve that on a regular daily basis anyway. It allows enough customers to get in there to make it worthwhile to certainly be operating for business, as long as they're continuing to practice the social distancing. And probably maybe the biggest challenge will be the restaurants. They will have to make some adjustments as far as table spacing and things like that. How do you see the restaurant piece working out, Mike?
Fortunately, over the last 2 months, restaurants have adapted well. I mean, they've been doing delivery either through their own employees or using third-party delivery services. They've been doing curbside delivery for families to stop by, pick up an entire meal for the family. About 6 weeks ago, we put into place where alcohol could be part of that curbside delivery. So that business has been developing over the past 6 weeks. And one of the things that the governor did mention was that those things need to stay in place as we start to open 50% of each of the restaurants. So hopefully between those different lines of service, there may be restaurants now that can only do 50% of their dining room, but may not have been doing delivery and curbside before. So hopefully that will augment and help them get through this, next 2, 3, 4, 5 months, however long it takes to get back to them being able to utilize their entire dining rooms and their bar areas. So hopefully those additional pieces of the curbside and delivery will help augment that.
Well, and I think all these small businesses, they want to do their part. And I know, I think it was a great shot of from Juan's Flaming Fajitas when he had his staff out there all socially distanced, spaced, in promoting their return to business. So we'll look forward to that up and down Water Street and throughout Henderson. So.
And I'd like to just state how Michael and his team have really worked well with the county and the other municipalities. And I'd like to point out that our residents lead regional lives. And so as we're looking at solutions, you know, they may live in Henderson, but they may want to visit a restaurant or a business in the city of Las Vegas or in Clark County. So it's very important that we're all working together collaboratively. And this morning when the county commission voted to move forward with the governor's roadmap, it was a regional decision to do that.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, was there anything else to add from your vantage from city licensing?
Just that if anyone out there has any questions, feel free to contact us. Our general business line, which is 702-267-1730, or they can call me directly, 702-267-1769. If I don't get to you today, I will get to you next week. I'm happy to talk to any business out there and make sure that you understand the roadmap to recovery and get you any materials that you need.
Great. Well, you have certainly proven that to you, your team, and mayor, and the entire city. So thanks for your work, Mike.
Michael's a rock star.
Thank you, Mayor.
And so why don't we continue, Mayor, and maybe invite up Ryan Turner to the screen now, because we're sort of, we're talking about the city's positioning, moving from what has been, crisis mode for all of us to a long-term recovery strategy. And Ryan Turner, I know, is the long-term, that's his new role. I think he wears a lot of hats at the city, and he's the long-term manager for the city. Is that correct, Mayor?
For the crisis, for the emergency operation. And, he's amazing. He has, one of the things I should probably say, just to set this up, is that the city of Henderson made a commitment about 8 years ago to have an emergency operations center. Not all cities have them, but we felt that it was important for us to stand up an operations center so that should there be an emergency, like several years ago when we had those microburst storms and we lost power on Boulder Highway and some of our buildings were compromised, we were able to open up the Emergency Operations Center and house people in our community. But it was that there's specific language that emergency operations speak. You go through FEMA training in Emmitsburg, and so you have folks who are all working together, and in that process, there's a number of categories that you're working in, and Ryan will explain that further. But one of the things that we do is we begin with the end in mind. So we're looking at how we're going to come out of this right at the beginning. When you start this emergency operation, you're also thinking about how you're going to recover as well. And Ryan is a superstar. We're so blessed as a city to have him as our emergency operations director, and he's just doing great things for Henderson. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Scott. And just wanted to say thank you to the entire Henderson Chamber for their support and their collaboration just during this challenging and difficult time. Just wanted to share with you a couple things. The city's been preparing for this for a long time. As long as I've been at the city, which has been about 10 years, we've included emergency preparedness in our strategic plan. And back in 2014, 70 of us went to FEMA's headquarters in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Mayor March came with us, and we spent a whole week there just really focusing on our whole preparedness program. And because of that effort and because of the strategic effort that we made, we've been able to be accredited by the Emergency Management Accreditation Program, which is an outside group that comes in and evaluates your program, and there's pieces of that program that you have to have in place. Part of that is having an emergency operations plan, and as well having a long-term recovery plan. So the city has a federally approved and state approved disaster recovery plan. As soon as the emergency happened and we activated on March 15th, as Mayor indicated, we started with the end in mind, and we staffed our long-term recovery task force that was being led by Mike Tassi. And now we are transitioning from emergency operations to recovery operations. And recovery is it's long-term recovery planning is a process of establishing a community-based post-disaster vision and subsequent action plan to address the community revitalization efforts in the weeks, months, and years to come. So the process involves identifying the needs of the community, and then we develop specific action-based goals and strategies and projects and sources of funding that are best suited to achieve the shared vision. So the way that it breaks down is there's basically, we take a large problem, which would be, in this circumstance, would be our overall recovery, and we break those down into 6 different smaller bite-sized groups. And those groups are called recovery support functions. And then we put a team of folks who are responsible for each one of those groups. So I just briefly am going to go over the 6. The first one is called community planning and capacity building. This is where we're going to look at long range master planning, community planning, land use, permitting, and zoning. Secondly is going to be economic recovery, and this is where we're going to really focus and partner with the Henderson Chamber. This will be about business, tourism, redevelopment. Derek Armstrong, our Director of Economic Development, along with Mike Cathcart, as well as Anthony Malloy, will be heading up this team and be working with you closely as we develop our recovery action plan. And then third is health and social services. This is our whole public health system. This is where we'll be looking at infection rates. We'll be looking at making sure that the curve remains low. We'll be instituting community-based testing, monitoring our surge, working with our healthcare partners, which has been wonderful this far. All the hospitals in Henderson, Dignity Health, as well as Henderson Hospital have been wonderful to work with. Fourth is disaster housing. So we'll be focusing on evictions, any issues that we have there, housing programs. Fifth will be infrastructure, and sixth will be natural and cultural resources, just how we get those online across all these different phases. And Mayor March, in final, Mayor March has really, this is the tone that she set for us regarding recovery, and overall it's together we can do this. So we're breaking this apart as, together we can protect our vulnerable populations. Together we can restore our local economy. Together we can support our healthcare system. And, we just all need to harness our creativity and determination as we care for each other and restore our community. And be happy to answer any of your questions, Scott.
Can I just point out that how responsive Ryan and his team have been? The governor shut down schools on a particular day. It was a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday he said to us, "You have to come up with childcare for these folks." And Monday morning we had, this was over the weekend, and Monday morning they had childcare set up and ready to go, especially for the first responders, folks who worked at hospitals who couldn't go to work because their kids were out of school and needed a place to stay. So that's the kind of thing that the Emergency Operations Center and Ryan's team stood up, and getting PPEs, the personal protective equipment. They were not able to come up with equipment. They actually worked with Polar Shades and were able to have Polar Shades step up and manufacture the equipment. And I saw yesterday, I believe, where the National Guard actually came in with a shipment from Polar Shades that they produced. And that initiative came out of the Henderson Emergency Operations Center. And things like testing. Now there's testing implemented at the Orleans. However, we're looking at some testing sites, a specific testing site in the city of Henderson, and hopefully before too long, we'll have an announcement about a location in the city of Henderson. But those are the kinds of things that can be happening in our emergency operations center, where they're nimble, we target resources. When we knew we had to send city employees home, we were able to stand up, I think, 900 licenses for folks to be able to work through technology from home to still deliver their jobs at the city of Henderson, but using technology to do that, so that we were social distancing. They didn't have to come into the office. We were protecting them, but at the same time, encouraging them to continue to do their jobs. So
Well,
that's
appreciate all of that. And I think that, it's easy to take for granted as, someone who lives or works in Henderson. You don't see all of the background that's occurred with the EOC, with the preparedness, with the readiness. Not every city does this. Actually, most cities don't. So I applaud the city being out in front of it and having us ready as a community. And one of those subgroups that Ryan, you mentioned, Derek is leading up, and we're gonna try this again, Derek. We're gonna see if we can get you live here yet. Is the Economic Development Committee, and we've already met. So the city and Derek and his team are moving forward quickly. Do we got you, Derek?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I switched from my laptop to my phone. It's amazing with technology. I think in the last 2 months, I've been doing web-based calls on Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Google Hangout, and I was even on one on some called Blue Jeans earlier this week. So technology, I think it's adapt and overcome, probably the mantra of most businesses at this point.
Well, do you want to say a few words about maybe the detail and focus of the subgroup that you're leading then, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first, it's really the success that we're seeing, or our ability to respond is a function of the environment that we're working on. I think it was very appropriate for Ryan to speak about all of the work that the EOC has done, and the mayor had mentioned the 8-year commitment to that. And really, as soon as we got to the point to where we started to shut down, it was really just pick up a plan, go into our emergency operations center and start working. And I think what we're moving into from this crisis mode to long-term recovery is part of that process. And it's really with the goal of doing several things. I think first and foremost, it's taking a look at the city's strategic plan to ensure that what we had planned for still makes sense, and how we can best respond to the current situation. So we're going through that process as well. And then additionally, how best can we help businesses through this crisis? And in our first call, and I have a number of stakeholders, both internally and externally. Mike Cathcart, community planning, some of our code enforcement inspectors are part of that group as well, is really to set the stage for businesses to be successful. I think oftentimes when I've been a business owner in previous roles, and I think oftentimes the role of government is to set the stage for success for businesses. So trying to look at things like utilizing outside space for some businesses like restaurants so they can be successful, or is there things in our municipal code which we could help either change or temporarily change to encourage those businesses working as well, and then looking at long-term things as well. So that group over the next 4 to 6 weeks will come up with a plan for our subgroup, which will be integrated in a citywide plan, and then will be reviewed by our mayor and council. And then I think it'll show that we truly do care about those who live, work, play, and learn in the city, just to make sure that we're still continuing to be that premier community moving forward and getting up to speed quickly and then efficiently and successfully for everyone involved.
No, it's great work, Derek. And again, we appreciate the forward-thinking preparedness by the city and all your departments. So
well,
appreciate.
I know we appreciate you as well, Scott. I think you and your team have been extremely important. You played a great role in helping to get up to speed. I know the mayor had mentioned polar shades, but even everything that we did with Las Vegas Distillery for the hand sanitizer. FLM, a great partner, donated some glycerin. There was another company in Henderson, I'm blanking on the name and I shouldn't be, that donated some of the hydrogen peroxide to get them up to speed. So the whole business community and the coming together over the last couple of months has been absolutely tremendous. And just going through the list, all the hotel partners in the city and them making their spaces available, and then donating cleaning supplies and PPE, even like the M Resort donating masks right when this happened. And then you saw the response from the breweries and even some of the really smaller businesses in the city, like Me Gusta Tacos in the district donated food for some of our food pantry. So I think the list goes on and on and on how the business community responded. And I think those are some of the untold stories that really need to be shared more widely on how successfully Henderson's been able to move through this process.
And just
Appreciate that. Yeah, there's been so many of these moments of kindness, sharing, collaboration that just go unannounced, and no one's looking for them to be announced, but it's appreciated when they are shouted out. So,
and just to reemphasize how important the chamber relationship has been for the city, that you really represent a huge group of folks who are doing business in our community and across the valley, and you have a finger on the pulse, and it's very helpful for us as we're moving forward to identify what the issues are, and then to also look for solutions. And you all have brought incredible solutions from the small business community to us, as well as the healthcare and resorts and the like. So we are very grateful to the chamber for their leadership, your leadership.
thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mayor. Ryan, Derek, anything else to add?
No, I appreciate the invite and being able to participate. I look forward to continuing the work with you, Scott, and a lot of the people on the phone call to make sure that we move through this recovery and get up to normal operations as quickly and as safely as possible.
Thank you to you both. So, Mayor, maybe we can pivot over a bit to talk a bit more about healthcare. It's such a big part of our community, our economy, and you know, I want to give a shout out, especially to one of our board members at the chamber, Dr. Carolyn Matzinger, MD at the Matzinger Institute of Healing. She's one of our program sponsors today, and she focuses on actually immune system health. So a good person to meet and discuss with as we get back to networking, is to buffer that immune system. But you know, the mayor, the hospitals worked very closely, especially on the calls. Really appreciated. It was Katie Ryan with Dignity Health, Sam Kaufman at Henderson Hospital. They really kept a pulse on things for us, right, Mayor?
Absolutely. You know, community health and safety is an important part of our strategic direction as a city. And it's no surprise at the outset of the pandemic that we had to work closely with the health district, but also the local hospitals, with our emergency responders, to ensure that they were all prepared and that they had the equipment and the tools that they needed. And they were incredible partners for us. And at the outset, we had regular meetings with the health district, with the hospitals. I know Derek was on phone calls with them, I think just about every day in the beginning, and then like twice a week, just to make sure that we were dealing with issues that were important, whether it was, are we prepared for medical surge? Do you have the proper equipment that you need to, should that happen? Or do your healthcare providers have what they need? Making sure that as we were setting up the childcare facilities, that we had a place for nurses and doctors and hospital workers to be able to bring their kids if they couldn't go to work. So the hospitals, Henderson Hospital and Dignity Health, were great partners for us, were regularly available to us to answer questions, to solve any of the issues that might arise. And we're grateful to them. And we're also grateful to our first responders in Henderson who've responded to households, who've responded to assisted living facilities, and looking after our vulnerable populations as well. So we couldn't be more proud of the folks that work for the healthcare industry, as well as our community as well.
And I think I'm going to read a little bit on this, but it's worth noting that Dignity Health, St. Rose Dominican Hospitals, Larry Bernard is also on our board of directors, and he's the lead for Dignity in the state. But they're part of an antibody national study, sponsored actually by the United States government and coordinated by the Mayo Clinic. And I think this is just good information for the community to know. Plasma from recovered COVID-19 patients is used to treat severely ill COVID-19 patients who meet certain criteria. And they have been utilizing this plasma at the Dignity Health hospitals, and the initial results, they say, have been very positive. So hopefully that trend will continue, but we have some of our local healthcare providers very involved in frontline response and treatment that'll hopefully prove of use to our citizens in the coming months. So
we're incredibly proud of our partners and the important work that they're doing across the board. And I should probably also shout out to, like, even the surgery centers. During the surge, or what we were looking at to anticipate a surge, a lot of the surgery centers made their ventilators available to the hospitals should there be a need. So this was a team effort. To see the commitment that we saw across, where there might have been competition in the past, you saw cooperation and solving challenges across the community, because we were all in this together. And there was one common enemy, and that was certainly the COVID-19 virus.
Well, I think, also as we move into phase one and, retail reopens, our partners at the district, again, open air malls are good places to go. Certainly the district is an example of that. But also maybe we'll tell a little bit about Water Street and our small business community there. There's been a lot of activity down on Water Street, and maybe people who haven't ventured down there in the last 4 to 6 weeks might be a little surprised. I know Lynn Kimsey at Tay Snyder Kimsey Architects, who's again is our last sponsor of the program today. But they've been busy drawing a few things up, and maybe Mayor, you could speak to some of the activities down on Water Street.
It's very exciting down here. In fact, I'm sitting in my office right now looking out over Lifeguard Arena, which has 2 sheets of ice that'll be going in, but the 3.5 walls are now up now, and the roof is almost completed, and the building's going to be a beautiful building. I had the opportunity to walk through and tour it on yesterday, and it was interesting to note. One of the construction folks was commenting that that the NHL team is going to be jealous of the AHL team that's going to be going in there, because the facilities that they have are much nicer than they have out at the facility in Summerlin. Of course, that's Henderson, of course, So anyway, we're excited about this facility. We expect it to be open late September, early October. And the facility will have 2 sheets of ice, a restaurant, office space for the AHL team, as well as some meeting space for folks and office space for the team as well. And we're expecting that with the team to have 60 full-time and part-time jobs coming into the arena, as well as I think 33 with the team that'll be coming in. And so we're expecting a combined annual estimated economic impact of the arena of more than $26 million. And that's just one of the many exciting things that are happening on Water Street. We're also working on an events plaza adjacent to the facility, where there'll be outside viewing for the games, and places where folks can gather and socialize when we no longer have social distancing. But we're very excited about that construction that's going to be happening across the street from the Lifeguard Arena. Is the Watermark Project, and that's at our Site D. And that's actually going to be an Opportunity Zone funded project, and it was formerly a city redevelopment site. And the developer's planning to do a 30,000 square foot retail and 52,000 square feet of Class A office, a food hall, and 138 residential units. So, and that project is still in the planning stages now. It hasn't, maybe the timeframes have bumped a little, but it's still in the planning stages. And certainly 107 South Water, which is the former Bank of America building, The Mojave Brewing Company opened in 5,000 square feet in February. Biscuits and Bourbon will be opening sometime this summer. And 9 hotel studio units will be opening later this summer as well. And then at 37 South Water, which is the former Townhouse Motor Lodge, which is also a assured development project, that's also an opportunity zone project. That's a 19,000 square foot facility, and it's being renovated, and it'll have retail operations as well, an urban lounge and a restaurant. And at 31 Water Street, which is another assured development project and also another opportunity zone investment, plans are underway for a new 6-story, 40,000 square foot mixed use building that'll have a restaurant and residential units as well. So we're excited about that. And then of course, Bella Point, which is on the corner next to Juan's Flaming Fajita. It's a mixed use project. It's currently vacant property. We're expecting 110 market rate apartments, 40,000 square feet of retail and commercial space, multiple new restaurants, including another Italian restaurant run by Sergio, and rooftop bar. And this project is actually in the planning stages. We've given them a 6-month extension, but they're on target. They're working hard they've got an architect and they're working hard to get their approvals made, and hopefully we'll be breaking ground in 6 months. So, and then of course, Wyndham Kimsey's project, South End on Water. We're very excited about the things that he's done there with urban infill and redevelopment. His phase 1 and phase 2 include TSK Architects and Lodge Landscape Design and Public Works Coffee Bar. And he's working to complete the phase 3, which is a private residence and accessory apartment. And of course, phase 4 will be additional residential units. So there's exciting things that are happening on Water Street, and we're working closely with the Cadence community as well to connect Water Street in downtown with the Cadence community. And that project is underway on Water Street, the infrastructure improvements and investment on Water Street to make that connection. And that'll be exciting for and certainly set the table to invite folks to come on to Water Street. And of course, the investments that are being made on Boulder Highway, we're working closely with NDOT. They've dedicated $40 million in capital construction dollars, capital project dollars to make some improvements. And so we're excited about those improvements that'll be made to create an environment of complete streets and to make it a more user-friendly roadway as well. So there's exciting things certainly that are happening in this east side of Henderson. And of course, Google is looking at an expansion just down the road as well. So Google is another important partner and one of 13 facilities in the world. So we're pleased that they've chosen Henderson. And even though we're dealing with this pandemic, these businesses aren't stopping. They're continuing to look at timeframes, maybe bumping some timeframes, but are certainly committed and invested in our community.
Well, that's an impressive lineup, and I know that's maybe but the half of it, right? So there is so much going on. So we're pushing toward the end of our hour, and I do want to emphasize there were a number of questions we just weren't able to get to. We filled an hour very quickly. The mayor's team will be following up to those members who have submitted questions to be able to get you an answer on what you were hoping to ask today. So Mayor, as we sort of close out the program, what is maybe a message looking forward to our small business community, and how do you see the near term unfolding?
You know, I think the message that I want to share is that we're all in this together. And you heard from Derek Armstrong, and you heard from Ryan Turner in our emergency operations, and you heard from Michael Cathcart in our business licensing, and that we're all working together, and we want our businesses to succeed, and we're doing everything we can to set the table to ensure their success. And we're exploring things like maybe extending business licenses and what we can do to help businesses to succeed. It's important for us that we set the table. That's maybe the role that government can play, is to set the table and then help businesses to succeed. And I look back on the economic downturn that we faced when we were in the last recession, the deep recession. a lot of the things that we did were to put assets and resources to the table, like a fuel revenue indexing allowed folks to go back to work and to have jobs be created and infrastructure built, or Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act money that we were able to put out there to create jobs, to put people to work. And so that's perhaps the role that we want to play. We want to our businesses to know, our small businesses to know that we're a partner. We're in this with you. If you have issues or concerns, please call us. We're partners with the Chamber of Commerce. We want to solve problems, and we have a good relationship with our representatives in Washington and at the state level, and also at the county commission and local jurisdictions. And so we're always looking for solutions as to how we solve the challenges of our community, and we're in this together.
Absolutely, and well said. So, Mayor, we're fortunate to be a part of a city that has been so well run, so well prepared, and looking forward to moving through phase one quickly and getting back to business in a way that we were accustomed to just 2 months ago. So, Mayor March, thank you again for speaking to our membership, and we applaud the work that you are doing on behalf of our city. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Henderson Chamber membership, we'll see you on the other side, and have a safe weekend, and let's get phase one moving. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.